Good afternoon. Call the meeting to order. Our regular February 24th regular meeting of Belleville City Council. The City of Belleville acknowledges we are meeting today on traditional territory of many nations. We recognize and honor the historic relationship of Indigenous peoples to this land and acknowledge our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain these lands and the natural resources contained within. We recognize all First Nation, Métis, and Inuit who call Belleville their home and support the need for cultivating a strong relationship with them. We look forward to fostering a path towards reconciliation and show respect for the Indigenous peoples who first live and currently live on the land where we now all reside together. I will call this meeting to order. Note that Councillor Kelly is not here, and please remain standing for a moment of reflection.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others, so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Please be seated. Pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. I need a motion for regular council meeting minutes of February 10th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Sue, Councillor Enright Miller. Discussion, all in favor, carried. Deputations, we have Jill Raycroft, CEO of Belleville Chamber of Commerce, to make a deputation to council. Jill, we're seeing a lot of you lately, last night, this morning, and today, so 3 times.
Well, and I think you'll see me again on Wednesday.
Thanks.
So, through the chair, His Worship, members of council, city staff, thank you for making some time for us on today's agenda. The Belleville Chamber of Commerce has been quite familiar with deputations to council, though it has been some time since we provided an update or review. For those who may be watching online, my name is Jill Raycroft, CEO of the Belleville Chamber of Commerce, and I am joined by our president, Chris Peltzer. So the Chamber, for those who don't know, was established in 1864. And I won't go through 160 years of history, but under the Board of Trade Act, and operates as a nonprofit organization with a general mandate to support economic development through advocacy of its membership, generally represented by business organizations, but also inclusive of other nonprofit agencies who support the growth, development, and sustainability of the community. This advocacy focuses on informing all levels of government of the impact of policy and regulation and what that may have on prosperity. And to that purpose, we connect, we represent, and we share. We connect our members to other members of the community. We represent at all levels of government, and we share a network of influence to support positive change. So, we are going to do a couple of things today. We're going to do an overview of the service agreements with the city, key achievements and trends, and some future direction of the chamber. So visitor services, just for fun, welcome center at the log cabin. Chris was mentioning, remembering seeing this log cabin get moved from across the way. Used to be located across from City Hall on the river. And it was decided in 1980 that the Chamber of Commerce would operate visitor services through that space. But I think that the relationship with tourism and the chamber dates back almost 100 years. Can't find the exact date, but I think the city first provided us a stipend of $600 about that long ago. So anyway, it is definitely aligned with the role of chambers of commerce, and it is seen as integral to economic development, business, and resident attraction. So we are happy to continue serving in that role. We wanted to just mention, because I don't think we've said so, that we did do some upgrades to the flooring and facilities in 2023, and we are anticipating a new sign installation in 2025. So through the help of Loyalist College, we have a beautiful new frame, and we'll be able to create some panels on the outside that will be more easily changed than the old wooden sign. The steel frame will be there for another 100 years, pretty much assured based on Loyalist's work. The other thing we had done, digital expansion. We recognized the declining walk-in traffic in 2019 and launched a digital strategy with visitbelleville.ca in 2019, and then rebranded to Discover Belleville in 2020, pre-pandemic, but prophetic, I suppose, in its own way, as we started to acknowledge the Discover Your Own Backyard, and that was the mantra for the next 2 years through COVID. and really encouraging people to find what the city or what the community had to offer. In 2024, that website saw 235% growth, so we're now reaching 80,000 visitors, and less than 25% of that is within the 40-kilometer range, so we know we're reaching across the world now with that impact. 75% of them from outside the region. We still have stable walk-in traffic, though we have seen an increase to 85% of local residents coming in. It might be to buy Connie Carson's book, but it's also for a map or a transit guide. So certainly the information that we carry in there remains useful, and for a lot of new people coming into the community. We still do the print guide, and the annual distribution has typically been about 15,000, and that goes across Ontario, goes to other visitor services centers. We make it available at events that we attend, and of course, we distribute through the log cabin. So in 2025, our main focus will be a renewed push for social media channel growth, where we did see a little bit of decline in the exponential growth over the last 4 years with Facebook and Instagram. From an events management piece, we have been doing these a long time. I think that under the administration of Mayor Ellis in 2007, the relationship was created with the Chamber to manage key city events. That was a result of a lot of different things, but in part, there was a need to transition the Waterfront Ethnic Festival. And so we've been working on that for a number of years. Susan Walsh worked with us for many of those, and she had announced her retirement in 2022. That was when we hired another events management coordinator. We supported both of them working for us for 9 months because we were committed to making sure the transition through staffing would ensure the events would maintain the caliber and the efficacy and the financial stuff that we have to deal with, for sure. We did successfully adapt through COVID as well. And then in 2023, we delivered those 8 events, including Diwali and the Caribbean Festival. We had some reserve funds, and that made it possible. In 2024, I think we saw some rising costs, and inflation certainly led to event scaling with the contract that was designed for that year. And there was also grant-based support for new events, and that was expanded. So that helped support some of the events that the city was no longer asking the Chamber to manage. So in 2025, and I think this is where the report refers to a mutual decision that we will not be renewing the events management agreement, and the Chamber will focus on advocacy and business support while the city supports community-led event development. And I think from a historical perspective, these events were always community-led, and the Chamber was so grateful to be able to engage with the community through the partnerships that we've developed over the years, pre-me and post-Susan, and the work we've done together has been truly a gratifying experience. It's a little bittersweet when we say that that's not going to happen anymore, and so, but we're looking forward. Just a little bit of a background on how those events got rolled out last year. The city provided a contribution of $221,000. The allocation to event expenses was $141,000, but the total event expenses was $252,000. So that shows that the expenses over the contract allocation and contributed by the Chamber was $111,000. So I think the ROI to the city is definitely positive with 13%. I hope you feel you got your money's worth, and the total expenses over the total city investment was an additional $31,000. So the city provides in-kind support. I don't want to forget to mention that, and all of these events and costs are not included, typically are consistent with repeat events and requirements, so hopefully they could be budgeted for. And the Chamber has been able to supplement the city's cash investment with community sponsorships, grants when applicable, vendor registration, midway, and parking revenue. However, none of them are guaranteed, and they did represent a risk to the Chamber. So for example, the city contract investment for Canada Day out of that $141,000 was $48,000, and the event cost is $86,000. We estimate our attendance at about 8,000, and 2024 was no exception. A wonderful year. People were still driving in at 9:30 and paying for parking, so we know that they were attracted to be there. The Belleville Waterfront Multicultural Festival and the World's Finest Shows Midway was held July 12th to 15th. The contract that we were able to allocate was $74,000, but the event costs $142,000. We have seen the estimated attendance consistent at about 30,000. That goes back to pre-pandemic levels. 2022 was a banner year where we probably saw about 40,000 people come. And then we had a split event in 2023 that changed things a little bit, but then they were back together and we saw the same kind of attendance. When we also know that the tourism decline, especially in the county, was about 40%, for us to maintain the attendance levels certainly did speak to the perceived value of the event. Our Family Fun Fest Fall Edition Touch-a-Truck, a partnership that we started with Rotary, has definitely been an amazing event. We see 8,000 to 10,000 come to that one, and with an investment of $11,500 from the city, it actually only cost $10,600. So, I mean, we were pretty close there. And then the Santa Claus Parade, everybody loves. The new route on Bridge Street certainly took off in 2018. We did a drive-by in 2020, which everybody thought was a great idea, so much so that it gridlocked the city for about 3 hours. But it certainly speaks to how invested we are in trying to make sure that you got what the city needed. And so in 2024, once again, we have 8,100 to that. The cost is about 14,000, and the estimated attendance across that route is about 10,000 people. So they certainly do contribute. Now to move on a little bit with the Chamber's strategic direction, focusing on that connect, represent, and share. We did have our strategic planning outcome. We did have a re-accreditation, so the Chamber accredits through a national organization, and one of those conditions are a strat plan. So we determined through that we could refocus our efforts to support the community through provincial and federal advocacy. We also feel that there's an opportunity for us to support municipal policy initiatives through provincial advocacy, and we're working very hard on that around mental health and addictions. We have been lobbying the Ontario Chamber for added voice at Queen's Park to increase funding. We are conducting a community safety impact survey that has been circulating through 17 different communities through the Chamber network, and we'll be launching a research partnership with Loyalist College in April, and this will also identify community initiatives that are supporting mental health and addictions and its impact on community safety over the next few years. We're really excited about that endeavor, and hopefully it will provide some background to the provincial government about what funding templates should look like. We also will be participating at the Ontario Chamber Conference in April, where we have asked for increased funding for community colleges. We see that as a clear issue. We have a number of other communities also supporting that policy resolution, which will mean the Ontario Chamber will start advocating at Queen's Park for community college support. We also wanted to streamline provincial grant applications. There's a federal system that's fairly straightforward, and we want to see that replicated at the province. And then, of course, support for municipalities in developing roundabouts at provincial intersections. So that's something we can speak to at a provincial level. We also have some exciting things coming around workforce development and youth retention, a personal passion of mine. And we understand that it's a critical issue for business growth. And of course, my kids say, oh, Belleville's sketch, I'm getting out of here. And we're like, no, I want you to come home. I want you to make this your home. And so last year we launched the Hidden Job Market Survey, and it highlighted a more balanced career landscape in Belleville that I think will change the conversation about where opportunities lie. We want to expand the reach of that survey to the region in 2025, and it will help identify multiple career opportunities and the need for talent locally. We also have this brand new initiative with the HIAC, which is the Halton Industry Education Council, and their newly branded Ontario Career Lab. This literally came through last week. It was announced to them in October, November. They've been working closely with the chamber networks at both the federal and the provincial level, and they are initiating a program that will recruit career coaches to share experience with grade 9 and 10 students. They have about 315,000 students to reach out to over the course of the next few months across Ontario, and they are using the chamber networks to reach out to our members, to develop career coaches, and then be present in terms of the delivery. They need a 6-to-1 ratio with those grade 9, 10 students, and we're really looking forward to facilitating that program with the Algonquin Lakeshore and Hastings County Boards of Education. And so the initiative aims to broaden career awareness and pathways, and I think it's a great way for our members to connect with youth, and really excited about that opportunity. So looking ahead, I guess here we are. Do you want to read that one?
Oh,
Or you can just say thank you, whatever you want.
don't put me on the spot here. But on behalf of myself and our entire board, I think the message we want to portray is thank you. Thank you for putting your trust into the chamber to partner with you on these events. We are extremely grateful for the opportunity and the experiences that we've had through this contract. And I think it's important to note that this is not the end of the relationship between the Belleville Chamber of Commerce and the city. There's new things on the horizon, and we are very excited to see where we align and how we can work together moving forward. So on behalf of the Belleville Chamber of Commerce and our board, a heartfelt thank you to everyone in this room for your support, and we look forward to what our future brings together.
Thank you.
17 years. It feels like I'm getting divorced, so thank you from the bottom of my heart and the City of Belleville and Council. 17 years is a long time to partnership. We've watched each other grow, and it's been a great relationship, but totally understand where you're coming from, and we've had great discussion about this over the last 6 months. But you did a great job promoting the city, and you still do, and the events were great. And I know that, Jill, you deserve some weekends off in the summer. Every Saturday it seemed like you were working. But with that, I'm not sure if council has any questions for you. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, thank you very much for all you've done over the years for the City of Belleville. So these events then will be taken on by different organizations. And I know there's been some talk of who's going to take them over. My question is, are your organizations still in the background to help with any advice to these organizations as they move forward? Because I'll pick on the Santa Claus Parade because I know that the DBAA, and I said in that committee, is looking at taking it on. There's lots of hoops there that they got to go through. So I think it's important we still be able to have the dialogue with the chamber.
Absolutely, and I know that even with Canada Day, that's already started to work through the city, fulsome explanation of all of the different things, why we do things a certain way, how this works, and what we've learned from our mistakes definitely will be a part of that. The Santa Claus Parade, a very similar approach. I will confess that it probably ran off the side of my desk this year or last year, and we were able to really streamline the process, and I hope that whatever organization takes that over will reach out to us and ask for our support and help with that.
Councillor Millette?
Thank you, Your Worship. And again, thank you, Ms. Raycroft, for all you've done, and Chris, to the board, thank you for the support. Quick question for Jill. Jill, the 30,000 in attendance this past year for the Waterfront Festival, minus the Midway, would we have seen that number maybe half? Or
Yeah, and I think what gives us some feedback on that was the year before in 2023 when we had to separate the two. Mm-hmm. So parking, there are a couple ways we can identify what the attendance looks like. Primarily parking is the one.
Yeah.
So we did have the parking we did parking for the Waterfront Festival part of it. We didn't do parking for the Midway. So I can evaluate attendance based on Midway ticket sales and the ridership. And then with parking for the Waterfront Festival, that's how we can kind of assess. And there's a certain formula where we say, okay, for every car that comes in, we assume 4. We keep that as a consistent measure so we know year over year whether or not that's growing or shrinking. And I would say that that's exactly what we saw in 2023, 20 to 10. And so this a very similar income and revenue stream from those as well.
Okay, and the reason I ask is because further in the, we're looking at a report further on in our agenda, and it's hand in glove with what you're telling us here, and a report from our Economic Development Department about transitioning the Waterfront Festival. So basically, for all intents and purposes, the Waterfront Festival and Ethnic Festival as we know it is basically dissolved, but some people seeing the 30,000 attendance figure would say, well, why would you dismantle something that was drawing 30,000 people? And my point, I guess, is minus the midway, it's somewhat a diminished event, and while there are the other issues with the whole thing, it just seems, as was noted in one comment, that it's grown a bit stale. And that's not through the fault of the organizers or anything else. It's just it's run its course. But thanks again for everything you've done, and I know how hard you work to keep that thing going.
Yes.
So thanks again.
Well, and I think there are a lot of really key community partners to the ethnic portion of that festival, and when they were amalgamated to the one park event post waterfront, I think one of the things you'll always hear is they want waterfront back the way it was. And I'm sorry, we were probably never going to get there with it being run as a city event. So if there are community groups that may be able to bring forward that type of, and I mean, you think about how that event started so many years ago. It really was separate organizations that were doing their own thing. They came together over a certain weekend, and you got a passport and you went to this community center in this hall and that. And I think we're seeing the evolution of new representative communities wanting to have an event. So there may be a potential for, like, who knows? It's very possible that it will come together and become even better. And that's what I would encourage, I think. Last year we took a very different approach to how we segmented each day. We focused on different target demographics, and I think it was successful, but it was a footprint for a new approach, and I think the cost is also what really needs to be considered.
Motion to receive, Councillor Chatton, Councillor Wright Miller, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Correspondence. An email from Chris Peltzer regarding Fortis temporary noise permit application, that the letter from Chris Peltzer commenting on the temporary noise application for 163 Sienna Avenue be received, and this letter is tied to 8B4. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Millette. All in favor? Carried. I now need a motion that council rise and go into committee of the whole to hear and consider reports, passing recommendations and resolutions with Councillor Carr in the chair. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Carried.
A reports. The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council. 8A1, execution of pre-servicing agreement, Towncentre Place Subdivision, part 20, registered plan 21R-11-926, part 2, registered plan 21R-26-264, part of lot 3, concession 3, formerly Township of Thurlow, now City of Belleville, County of Hastings. Owner is 2777302 Ontario Incorporated. File is ER-121 and PLD SC 202-40132. Resolution reads that bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a pre-servicing agreement between 2777302 Ontario Incorporated and the Corporation of the City of Belleville be prepared for Council's consideration, but that the respective agreement and related documentation not be signed until such time as the manager of approvals advises that the owners have satisfied all city requirements. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions or comments? See none, all in favor? That's carried. 8A2, amendment to procedural bylaw number 2019-48 as amended. Resolution reads that pursuant to the city clerk's report number CC-2025-02, regarding amendment to the procedural bylaw number 2019-48 as amended, the amendments to section 7.1 order of business, 7.9 bylaws, and 7.14 confirmatory bylaw as outlined be approved, and that the appropriate bylaw be brought forward for council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Wright Miller, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any questions or comments? Councillor Chatton.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, to the clerk. I'm just wondering, this is mostly just the housekeeping of tightening up the this particular resolution, correct? When I read through it, it didn't really seem like it was significantly different.
Through the chair to Councillor Chatton, that is correct. It's to streamline some of our processes and clarify. The one noticeable difference for council will be when we have a special council meeting, only those headings that are required to transact the business will be included on the agenda cover pages.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. 8A3, Enabling Accessibility Grant Agreement. Resolution is that a bylaw to approve and authorize the Articles of Agreement dated February 24, 2025 between His Majesty the King in Right of Canada as represented by the Minister of Employment and Social Development, the Ministry, and the City of Belleville, the municipality, related to funding provided through the Enabling Accessibility Fund as referenced in the Accounting Coordinator's Report number AC-2025-03 be prepared for Council's consideration, and that the 2025 capital budget be amended to include sound amplification devices in the amount of $11,200, funded by $10,800 from the Enabling Accessibility Fund and $400 from the Asset Management Reserve Fund. Moved by Councillor Wright Miller, second by Councillor Chatton. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. 8A4, City of Belleville Events Management Plan. Resolution that pursuant to the Manager of Economic Development Report number ECDEV-2025-02 be received. Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Sue. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. 85, Rural Transit Solutions Fund application. Resolution reads that pursuant to the Director of Transportation and Operations Services report number DTOS-2025-4, I'm assuming, Rural Transit Solutions Fund application, an application be made to the Ministry of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities Canada for funding in the amount of $2,800,000, and that pre-budget approval for the 2026 capital budget be provided in the amount of $3,500,000 for the purchase of transit fleet replacements of Unit 62, 63, 73, 74, and 75 to be funded by the Rural Transit Solutions Fund in the amount of $2,800,000 and by the provincial gas tax in the amount of $700,000. Moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. Any questions or comments? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. The Rural Transit Solutions Fund application in and of itself may be a bit confusing to our residents in terms of where we're headed. So I wondered if we could get some clarification on what's actually included in the rural transit within this application.
Director Reid.
Through the chair to Councillor Brown. Through this application, we're making a recommendation or an application to the federal government for funding on 2 conventional transit buses. As you can appreciate, we do have a few connections with the rural component of our municipality. We do have a route that goes into Ward 2 to the Walmart stop. Recently, I think about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we amended our billing tables for the Walmart commercial property to be a part of the transit route. These 2 units are 18 years old and they're nearing end of life and they need to be replaced. But we do have a lot of connections for our rural area as well. You know, people walk to Walmart and get on the bus. We also have some connections that come in from Quinte West and Prince Edward County that we support from the rural area, and we also have our high school passes that we obviously students come into our urban area each and every day on the transit buses, and they ride. And then we do have 3 mobility buses that are up for replacement. replacement that go throughout our entire municipalities, from Roslyn to Plainfield, and they provide service to our residents in our rural area.
Councillor Brown?
Just as a follow-up for confirmation, as a result of this application, we are not reopening the Ward 2 transit?
Director Reed?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Brown, that's not our intention.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Chatton?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'm always hesitant whenever I see that we are doing pre-budget approvals for monies specifically that we have not been guaranteed or that we have not received yet. I do see that this is based on the 2.8 million that we're asking for from the Infrastructure and Communities Canada grant for funding, but we all know that when we make an application, it's an ask and it's not a guaranteed dollar amount that we're going to get back. So when we're making the commitment to put 2.8 towards this from a fund we don't have guaranteed funds from, I have a little bit of a problem with that, and I'm not sure how I'm not sure that I will support this as it reads, that second part. I definitely do support us making the funding application, and if we then receive those dollars or that grant is successful, then absolutely we should put it towards this. But not having it and then guaranteeing those dollars to it, it doesn't feel right. I'm sorry. I won't be supporting this as it stands.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? See none, all in favor? That's carried. Moving to 8B, consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. Start with my left, Councillor Thompson.
8B4.
Okay. Councillor Enright Miller.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sue.
Also, 8B4.
Councillor Brown.
No, thank you.
Councillor Chatton.
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Millette.
Already pulled.
Mayor Ellis. Okay, so get a resolution that consent items be approved with the exception of 8B4. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Brown, any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Moving to 8B4, temporary noise permit application, Fortis Group. Resolution reads that the temporary noise permit application from Fortis Group Incorporated to run a construction generator at 163 Sienna Avenue between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. until the installation of a permanent power source scheduled for the beginning of March 2025 be approved. I'll get it on the floor. Councillor Thompson, second by Councillor Millette. Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, I'm not going to support the motion to approve the extra hours. This has been going on a concern now for a while, and the neighbors have voiced their concern, and everybody's entitled to a decent night's sleep and some quiet time. This situation should have been brought forward before it even started and asked for a temporary noise bylaw, and we wouldn't have had the complaints, maybe, from the neighbors. It may have approved, it may not have. But at this stage, I can't approve this because I certainly wouldn't want it in my backyard. I want construction, I want new residents, I want all that, but there is certain limits to what we can disturb the public, and at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, I wouldn't be a very happy camper neither. So I'm going to do not support this motion to extend the quiet hours. Thank you.
Councillor Sue.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I actually drove around the site, 163 Sienna Avenue, Saturday past around 3 p.m. The generator was very close to the resident, and there is high metal fence around the site, and it was securely locked. I did not see anyone around the site, and I could hear the generator was running. So I have two questions, please, if I may. I would like to know why the generator cannot be moved away from the resident. And then my second question is, it says 7 p.m. and 7 till 7 a.m. And they want for the beginning of March 2025 be approved. So I would like to know the date, like before March 15th or March 8th or March 10th or something, just the beginning of March 2025. It just doesn't convince me. So that is my question.
Okay, bylaw manager Hill is here. Ms. Hill, if you'd like to field those questions, please.
Through you, Chair. From my understanding, the vagueness surrounding the noise exemption permit is solely contingent on when Hydro would be able to install an actual power source for them. And if I don't know what the proposed date is from Hydro, but they were expecting within the first week of March. However, we know that Hydro sometimes does get delayed, and in construction sites, when the ground is frozen, they are often hesitant to run overhead wires. So there is considerations to be taken from that aspect, but that is the vagueness surrounding the request. The other portion of the request, if we could repeat the question, Chair.
Councillor Sue?
Why the generator cannot be moved away from the resident?
The generator's on site, so they have running water, like hot water, and the pipes don't freeze within the staff building, and that is where the staff building and generators are located by the site super. It is absolutely a question that we can ask to the site super to see if moving it is a possibility. I will say from the pictures and the information that I have seen that the site super has been very responsive to staff requests, so we can absolutely see if that is something they are open to.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Millett.
Thank you, Chair. While we have Ms. Hill at the podium, I have a question of hers, and then I have an observation here. Ms. Hill, did the applicant come to us before the complaint was issued by, I believe it was Mr. Peltzer?
Through you, Chair. No, to my knowledge, the applicant did not come to the city before them. It's a reactive action.
Well, and I will make note, thank you for that. I will make note that Mr. Peltzer had emailed all of us, and we've seen the details of his concern, and they're quite valid in my estimation. He also took time to attach a sound attachment of what his family is dealing with in this case. And I don't know if everybody opened the attachment, my colleagues, but we listened to it, and there's a definite hum, and it was recorded from inside his house. And so this is 24/7 that the family's dealing with this. And I don't know if anybody read some time ago that the residents of a certain neighborhood in Windsor were putting up with a hum that was coming from the other side of the river in Detroit. And it affects all manners of your life. So I'm not going to support this application. I think it's a case of somebody seeking an apology, or to apologize rather than asking for permission. They're asking for forgiveness rather than asking for permission, and I think that's a cart and horse thing, so I will not be supporting this in any way.
Okay, Councillor Chatton, I had you next.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Manager Hill, how many complaints have you gotten from the surrounding area, if I may?
Through you, Chair. So to date, we have had one ongoing complaint. And it has been a repetitive complaint, grant you. However, there's only been one complaint received by our office.
Mayor Ellis?
And just everything, I'm saying that I won't support it. I spoke to Mr. Peltzer, and the bylaw's there, and I think that They knew it was there, and it's about conforming to the bylaw.
Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Chair. A question, I'll let you decide who it should be directed to. It was my understanding that the generators, while maintaining the staff facility and making sure that the pipes didn't freeze, that the generator was also being used to cure recently poured foundations. In the event that the permit is not granted and they have to shut down the generator, will that have an implication into the number of foundations we can get into the ground?
I'll direct that to the bylaw manager.
Through you, Chair. That was absolutely one of the reasons why the generator was running. To my latest update that I have ever received from the complaint, it seems to be that the curing of the foundation of the generator of concern is no longer that use. However, I could be mistaken. There are other foundations in the area that are being poured and are being cured by alternate generators. But from my understanding, the one that is closest to the complainant's resident seems to be dedicated to staff facilities.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Wright Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I just wanted to weigh into, I won't not support the motion. I agree with we should stick with the timing of the bylaw, and I went out and had a listen as well, as Councillor Sue did, and it is, there's a noise, and I can see how frustrating and annoying that could be. And if we are coming into some nicer weather, so that's a plus for the construction site. So hopefully the curing is past us, and it's just they can shut it off for the weekends and after hours. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Hill. So there's a motion on the floor to approve the temporary noise application. All in favor?
Could I have a recorded vote, please?
Sure.
Councillor Chatton?
No.
Councillor Enright Miller?
No.
Councillor Millette?
No.
Councillor Sue?
No.
Councillor Thompson?
No.
Councillor Brown?
Yes.
Mayor Ellis?
No.
Councillor Carr?
No.
Lost by 8.
Thank you. Moving on to 8C, council information matters. Council may adopt, well, I'm not even going to read that because we have one item. 8C2, get a motion to receive Councillor Chatton, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Millette.
I will move that we support 8C2. Having formerly lived and worked in the great town of Hanover, Ontario, I fully support their motion for endorsing that the federal and provincial government's call to action to buy Canadian where and when possible, and I would hope our municipality follows suit. So I would like to see us support that motion if we could.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Thompson, I think. Did you second? Yeah, Councillor Thompson was the seconder. Okay. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And I need a motion to rise and report. Councillor Chatton, Councillor Millette, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Bylaws. First reading of bylaw 2025, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All in favor? Carried. Second reading and discussion of bylaws 2025, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Moved by Councillor Chatton, seconded by Councillor Millette. Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Third and final reading of bylaws 2025, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Wright Miller. All in favor? Carried. New business. Notice of motions. Announcements. Councillor Thompson.
I want to congratulate the DocFest organization. They put on a wonderful weekend. They had a great turnout, all the events. My wife and I totaled 16, between my wife and I went. I thought it was well presented, great topics, great documentaries, and I just want to congratulate Holly DeWare and the team for putting on this in Belleville, and it coincided with the soup thing, and I think they had a good turnout there, so kudos to the DocFest organization, and hope it continues for many years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Seeing anybody else? Councillor Kelly. Oh, Councillor Kelly's not here today. So, we'll keep, actually, I've got him on Zoom here. He wants to do a few announcements. So. Proclamation, February 28th is Rare Disease Day. March is Liver Health Awareness Month. March is Amyloiditis Awareness Month. March is
Amyloidosis.
Amyloidosis, okay. Amyloidosis. And March 3 to 9th, Violence Awareness and Random Acts of Kindness Week. I need a confirmatory bylaw. The bylaw number 2025-31, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on February 24th, 25th, be read a first, second, and third, and finally passed this 24th day of February 25th. Moved by Councillor Enright Miller, seconded by Councillor Millette. All in favor, carried. Notice to adjourn, moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Sue. All in favor, carried. Thanks, everybody.